But then I went to Asia for the hardware part and the electronics part.
Good morning.
The name of my talk is the next big thing is wearable, or how you can also call it, the soul-sucking journey of trying to create something from nothing. Kind of who's this talk for? The point of the talk is, I remember starting out right out of university with Soundbrenner, and I didn't have any examples or idea, like, how do you even develop a wearable device? It seemed like black magic. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to see the journey in our example, because we were basically straight out of university. We had no funding, no clue. And we, in the end, managed to be at least, it depends what level of success you take, but, we have a decent amount of success. So I use us as an example, so you can a bit imagine, if you have the ambition to make your own wearable, what this journey looks like and what it takes, and maybe get a little bit inspired by it. So in 2014, my co-founder and me, Julian, we were sitting in Berlin, and we were both really passionate about music. So we are not full-time musicians or anything. We both studied business and music technology, but not like performance or anything. And we felt like there's not really any great companies in the music equipment space that are doing great design and great technology and really doing what's possible. And that's a real bummer, because to us, making music is this superpower. With music, you can captivate a room, you can create these amazing memories, and you can even inspire the whole world, a single musician. And that's why so many people wish to play music, but then they have this, not really good equipment to actually do so. And and the problem is, partially thanks to the equipment and partially just thanks to the nature of learning music, can be really rough to do so, right? And so our vision was, we want to make music practice fun, rewarding, literally addictive, by building this amazing ecosystem of better tools, basically. So how exactly we want to make it better is, remove some of this pain with better tools, and then also some gamification and community elements. And for the tools, that's what I want to talk about today, especially because that to us was the variable tools. Okay, and so we started with maybe the most popular music tool in the world, which is called the metronome. In case you don't know what a metronome is, it makes a very annoying click sound. You listen to it for hours while you practice, and you try to play along. And so, again, very annoying. Many people say it's torture. And so our base idea in 2014, and we were sitting in Berlin right out of university, was, hey, it would be so cool if you could actually feel the beat instead of listening to the beat with a metronome. And everybody we told the idea about, they said, oh, this doesn't already exist. This sounds obvious that this is good, And so we went on our journey. Actually, we started in Startup Weekend in Berlin. And then we kind of just took the soldering iron. We had very basic technical knowledge, and we started trying to build something out of Arduino, if somebody knows what that is, and started coding and hacking away. We got some basic electronics from local shops in Berlin, and then my co-founder's roommate was a tailor. So he helped us build this monstrosity. And so, for example, here we are trying to test where it would be the best to feel the vibration to absorb the rhythm, so that you could really play along very good. And that's already sort of one lesson I would suggest. If you're at the very beginning, I think something that we did quite well is, first, we got started immediately. We just jumped into the cold water and we started working on something. There are many people, they need a year of thinking about it and writing and thinking and really the best way is to just jump into the cold water and start building a product. And I also think, just there's so many distractions and so much you could be doing that the hardest thing is almost to not get distracted and not get tempted by all these other things, but really just focus on making something that people want. And basically the way you do that is by building a a prototype. You have an idea, a solution to a problem. You build a prototype. You show that to people. You test it with them. They will tell you probably it sucks, and then you try to make it better based on their feedback, and then you repeat all of that. And this process can be quite brutal, as I just said, because of course early on your product and prototype will be very bad, but you kind of have to have the imagination and the vision in your head to see, oh, if I fix all of these things and I make it really great, I think then this potential customer here, this user, would eventually love it. And yeah, that's kind of how I felt, and that's what kept me going in these prototyping phases. So here I have a few more pictures, kind of how this all evolved over time. And I think here I integrated a picture from 2014. Back then we were really proud, as you can see. We started the company in June, and then by September to October we already had like these nice renders and like some bad prototypes, and we were really proud to have so much progress already, which is a bit funny now, but yeah. And back then we were also called Feel the Beat, as you can see. And I think basically your first step, if you make especially an electronics product, is to kind of develop the vision and carve it out with your users based on feedback. So okay, now I really understand what it has to be, the product, when it's finished. For us, this meant, for example, that you could flexibly change the position where to wear it. Like it couldn't just be worn on the wrist, because some people love to experience the vibration on the chest or the arm or the ankle. So we developed a system for that in the final product. And we knew how the vibration should feel and so forth. Like there were a lot of things we learned. And kind of this is where the journey took us eventually to Asia, which is why I'm in Hong Kong now. So in Berlin, we actually met an accelerator program, and they told us we should come to Asia because it's much easier to develop electronics there, because people develop electronics all the time in Shenzhen. And in Berlin, there's not that many hardware startups in comparison, and there's not this whole ecosystem. So we decided to kind of stay with partially in Berlin for our software development. Like my co-founder stayed in Berlin, but then I went to Asia for the hardware part and the electronics part. And here you can see us with a company that we got introduced to. They are experts in electronics, and we started working on the industrial design. And kind of the first prototype was made out of paper, and then we started remodeling that in CAD, and eventually we got some handmade prototypes out of silicon. And then this was like the first real prototype. And then, over time it evolved, and we really had found like this big contrast to this lame old music industry compared to our cool wearable device, right? And so then kind of the next step in this journey is you want to see if somebody would pay for this, which is again further validation. Like people might tell you, oh, this is nice, but then selling is the ultimate test, whether you really made something that people want. And for us, this was a pretty fun preparation, because as we were preparing for the launch of our crowdfunding campaign, we had like this email newsletter you could sign up to. And we posted in a few forums, and people immediately started talking about this idea of a wearable for musicians. And we got 20,000 signups to our email newsletter, which just blew our minds. And we got like really hyped, and we had like really high expectations about the campaign. And we started investing a lot in creating like this amazing video and some really cool photos, and it all came along real nice. And then we even had this big crowdfunding launch party, where instead of focusing on putting together the last finishing touches on the website, we had like a lot of beers and invited all our friends to celebrate with us. And it turns out this all didn't work quite as much as we were, quite as well as we were hoping, because so our expectation kind of was, we would immediately sell. We did some math, 20,000 people, 5% would buy it. And I think that was already like 100,000 US. And we were just like thinking, okay, the minimum we get in the first day is 100,000 US. And then in reality, as the party came to an end, we only actually had 5,000 US dollars. And it turns out of all the people that signed up that we emailed and all the press we got, nobody ended up buying our product. And that was like such a terrible moment for us, because we were totally in the clouds. And this is when like reality hit us, like, oh, we felt like really stupid for even having such high expectations. But yeah, this is kind of how it goes. Like I was at the talk of Elon Musk once, and he says that starting a company is like eating glass and staring into the abyss, because there are so many horrible, gut-wrenching things that are on the way. But then, you just have to keep going. And kind of for us, luckily, as it turned out, we're really bad at selling. And actually, the product itself was good, and people liked the idea, just they didn't really understand it at first. So kind of another important learning for you if you start to plan a crowdfunding campaign, don't just focus all your time on validating the product, but also, for example, try to validate the marketing and the selling part. For example, show people the price when they sign up to your email newsletter. Then if they sign up, it means they actually plan to buy it. And so forth. We did a mistake of making it very mysterious, for example. And luckily for us, eventually during the campaign, we grinded away and we figured it out. And every day we wrote all our friends on Facebook, please share this. And we just managed to improve the page. We ran some ads, we got some more press, and we hit 250,000 on Indiegogo, which was like barely enough to survive and keep going. Because making an electronics product is, of course, not cheap. And so this is kind of how it went. And, from there, it's been a long journey. I can't share all the 5 years, but here's like a quick video to give a bit of a taste. It's like 30 seconds of how the journey has been and kind of where we are today. Yeah, so a bit better than our first attempt at marketing. And, we figured it out eventually to get better. And of course, we're still improving and we still have a lot to learn. But it's coming along. And then just for, to see a bit more of the journey, I included a few photos here of kind of different aspects of the mass production, which I found really fascinating because I had never experienced how a product is developed and comes to life. So here's like the electronics in the top left. This is how it starts on a big development board. And then eventually you have the mass production. This is how it starts with packaging. We analyze a lot of samples from other brands, and then we kind of, like in kindergarten, we took a scissors and a glue stick and we built something. And then eventually this turned actually into like a really fancy packaging suitable for retail. And then there's the tooling part. Like this is really expensive injection molding for plastic, very long process. And eventually then you get to the stage where you have all the ingredients, and then you need to figure out the assembly part as well. And then ultimately you have like the finished goods in your hands. And then the next big chunk is to get them into music stores, for example, which we managed to do after quite some time as well. And like now after all this journey, we're at roughly 100,000 units sold, 10 million US in revenue with our product. And also what's pretty nice is we have an app. So that works without the hardware, but also with the hardware. But we have actually a few million downloads now of musicians, and it's a great entry point to get to know us. And then many like to upgrade to the wearable later after they started using the metronome app. That's just like very traditional. And there's also a subscription service. Okay, so lessons learned along the way. I still have a few, like maybe 30 seconds. So I'll just rush a bit through these. So hardware companies, as you can already tell, are involved in a lot of different industries. If you want to start a hardware company, be prepared to start with a big team. You need to have, from marketing to electronics to app development, a lot of knowledge. Or also the alternative is you learn really fast. And also kind of you have to follow this 20-80 rule. With 20% of the effort, you get 80% of the result, meaning it's always chaotic. You don't have time to do anything perfect. And it feels kind of like a train running that's almost falling apart. But you kind of keep it together. And that's how it always felt along the journey. You can see how chaotic the marketing was and then the manufacturing. But eventually we figured it all out. And it's certainly quite a journey. And to do that, I would say what helped us a lot was to find people with experience and connections, like an accelerator program. And yeah, I think also like maybe as a long-term thing, what's really key, what we found, is to have a recurring revenue as a business model. That's important if you have like high ambitions that you really want to scale. Like just selling pure devices or wearables is not going to be a great business model. And yeah, bring relentless determination, because just passion can sometimes be not enough. Like really, there needs to be a reason in your bones why you want this to happen, why you want your company to exist, and then you're gonna succeed. So that's it. Soundbrenner, making music practice addictive, and our little journey since the first Verit in 2014. I hope it's a bit interesting and it was a bit, inspiration maybe.